The opulent halls of Lux Emporium, a renowned high-end store, buzzed with the soft chatter of affluent shoppers and the faint sound of classical music playing overhead. Among the glittering displays of designer handbags and gleaming jewelry counters, a man stood alone, his hands clasped behind his back as he admired a rare timepiece encased in glass. Dressed in a simple black jacket and worn sneakers, he appeared out of place amidst the store's usual clientele of sharply dressed elites. A sharp-eyed sales associate noticed him and quickly approached, her polite smile fading into a cold stare as she surveyed his appearance. Her tone, tinged with suspicion, cut through the air. "Sir, can I help you with something? If not, I'd appreciate it if you didn't linger near the displays." The man looked up, his calm demeanor unwavering as he responded softly, "I was just admiring this piece," but the associate's patience was already wearing thin. "Unless you're here to buy, I'll have to ask you to step away," she said, her voice louder now, drawing the attention of other shoppers. Unbeknownst to her, this man was no ordinary customer. What she did next would unravel a chain of events that would shock everyone present and reveal a truth no one in Lux Emporium could have anticipated. The Lux Emporium, an iconic luxury department store, stood at the heart of the city's upscale shopping district. Its grand facade of polished marble and gilded accents exuded wealth and exclusivity, making it a magnet for celebrities, business moguls, and the ultra-wealthy. Inside, the store was a temple to opulence. Towering crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over meticulously arranged displays of designer clothing, jewelry, and rare accessories. A faint scent of expensive perfume lingered in the air, mingling with the soft rustle of high-end shopping bags and murmured conversations. Every detail in Lux Emporium was curated to convey sophistication, but beneath its gleaming exterior lay an unspoken rule: appearances mattered. The staff, impeccably dressed in tailored uniforms, prided themselves on their ability to cater to their affluent clientele. Among them was Amanda, a sharp and ambitious sales associate with a reputation for closing deals with the wealthiest patrons. Amanda's success had fueled her belief that she could spot a serious buyer from across the room, a skill she wore like a badge of honor. However, Amanda's laser focus on appearances often led her to make snap judgments about people, a flaw she rarely acknowledged. Her ambition was rooted in her desire to rise through the ranks of the retail world, and she saw every interaction as an opportunity to impress her superiors. On the day of the incident, Amanda's target was Charles, a quiet man who had entered the store with little fanfare. Charles was in his mid-40s, with a tall, sturdy frame and a calm, unassuming presence. Dressed in a simple black jacket, jeans, and scuffed sneakers, he seemed out of place in a store frequented by individuals draped in designer labels. Yet, there was something about the way he carried himself, his steady gaze, his confident posture, that hinted at a depth beyond his modest appearance. Charles had built his fortune quietly, avoiding the limelight that many in his position courted. As the founder of one of the city's most successful tech firms, he had chosen a life of discretion over excess. His decision to dress simply and live humbly was deliberate. He valued authenticity and saw little need to flaunt his wealth. However, his unassuming nature often led others to underestimate him, a mistake that, as he had learned over the years, could reveal much about a person's true character. The store was bustling that afternoon, with shoppers browsing the latest collections of designer brands. Among them was Evelyn, a wealthy art dealer known for her sharp eye and even sharper tongue. Evelyn observed everything with a critical gaze, and her presence added an additional layer of pressure for the staff to perform flawlessly. Watching the scene unfold from a distance, she quickly noted Amanda's growing irritation with Charles, her brows arching in curiosity. Meanwhile, Mark, the store's assistant manager, remained stationed near the entrance, his attention divided between monitoring customer service and checking his watch. Mark prided himself on maintaining the store's pristine reputation, and while he valued Amanda's sales skills, he often worried about her overzealous approach with certain customers. He had learned to intervene discreetly when needed, ensuring that no guest left the store feeling unwelcome. As Charles wandered through the store, pausing to admire a particularly rare timepiece, Amanda's irritation grew. She couldn't shake the feeling that he didn't belong here. She saw his plain attire as a red flag, a stark contrast to the polished image she associated with their clientele. Her judgment, clouded by assumptions, would set the stage for a confrontation that would test not only her professionalism but the store's very ethos. Unbeknownst to Amanda and the rest of the staff, Charles was not just any customer. He was the store's new owner, having recently acquired Lux Emporium as part of his expanding business portfolio. Charles had entered the store that day with a purpose: to observe how it operated on the ground level and to assess the quality of its service firsthand. What he was about to experience would leave him both disappointed and determined to take action. As Charles continued to browse the Lux Emporium, his unassuming demeanor clashed starkly with the air of exclusivity cultivated by the store. Amanda, unable to suppress her growing frustration, kept a watchful eye on him from behind the jewelry counter. To her, Charles wasn't just an unusual customer. He was a potential disruption to the pristine image she worked so hard to maintain. Amanda glanced at her colleague, Lisa, who was arranging a new display of diamond necklaces nearby. "Can you believe this?" Amanda muttered under her breath. "He's been wandering around for 20 minutes and hasn't asked a single question about a product. I swear, he's just here to waste our time." Lisa, more measured in her responses, frowned slightly. "Maybe he's just browsing. Not everyone comes in ready to buy immediately." Amanda shook her head. "That's not it. Look at him, those sneakers, that jacket. He doesn't belong here. I'm going to put an end to this before he scares off the real customers." Across the store, Evelyn, the wealthy art dealer, had noticed the tension brewing. She watched with a mix of curiosity and amusement as Amanda's irritation became increasingly evident. Evelyn leaned toward Mark, the assistant manager, who was standing nearby. "Looks like your staff is about to make a scene," she remarked, her tone carrying a hint of derision. "Might want to step in before it gets messy." Mark sighed, already aware of Amanda's tendency to overreact. "I'll handle it," he replied, stepping away to observe the situation more closely. Meanwhile, Charles had stopped at a display case featuring an exquisite collection of watches. He leaned down to admire a limited edition piece, a sleek design with a platinum finish and sapphire accents. The price tag was discreetly tucked beneath the watch, its six-figure value visible only to those who looked closely. Charles nodded to himself, appreciating the craftsmanship, before straightening up. It was at that moment Amanda decided to act. She approached Charles with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Excuse me, sir," she said, her tone polite but laced with thinly veiled skepticism. "These items are part of our exclusive collection. If you'd like assistance with something more suitable, I'd be happy to direct you to another section." Charles raised an eyebrow, surprised by her approach. "More suitable?" he repeated, his voice calm. "I was under the impression that this store catered to all kinds of customers." Amanda's smile faltered slightly, but she pressed on. "Of course," she said quickly, "but our luxury items are typically purchased by, well, collectors or individuals with a certain level of familiarity with the brands. If you're just browsing, I could recommend—" "I'm quite familiar with these brands," Charles interrupted, his tone still measured. "In fact, I own a few pieces from this very collection. But I'm curious, what makes you think I'm just browsing?" Amanda hesitated, her carefully rehearsed composure slipping. "I didn't mean to imply anything, sir," she said, her voice defensive. "I'm simply here to ensure all our customers receive the best possible service." Before Charles could respond, Evelyn's voice cut through the tension. "Amanda, darling, why don't you let the gentleman shop in peace?" she said, stepping closer with an air of authority. "You're hovering like a hawk, and it's quite unbecoming." Amanda flushed, caught off guard by the unexpected intervention. "I was just trying to—" "To what?" Evelyn interrupted smoothly, arching a brow. "Protect the merchandise? Ensure the store's image remains untarnished? I think you've made your point loud and clear." Mark chose this moment to step in, his expression neutral but firm. "Amanda, why don't you assist another customer?" he suggested, his tone leaving no room for argument. "I'll take over here." Reluctantly, Amanda stepped away, her frustration evident as she retreated to another section of the store. Mark turned to Charles, offering a genuine smile. "I apologize for any misunderstanding, sir. If there's anything you need, please don't hesitate to ask." Charles nodded, his calm exterior masking the disappointment simmering beneath the surface. "Thank you," he replied simply. As the tension diffused, Lisa approached Amanda near the jewelry counter. "You really need to tone it down," she said quietly. "What if you're wrong about him?" Amanda scoffed, crossing her arms. "I know what I'm doing, Lisa. I've been here long enough to spot a time waster." But Lisa's words lingered in Amanda's mind as she watched Charles from a distance. Something about his composed demeanor and quiet confidence gnawed at her, though she refused to admit it. Meanwhile, Evelyn engaged Charles in a brief conversation, her curiosity getting the better of her. "You handled that quite gracefully," she remarked. "Most people would have caused a scene." Charles offered a small smile. "I've learned that patience often reveals more than confrontation," he replied cryptically. As the afternoon wore on, the atmosphere in the store gradually returned to normal. But for Amanda, Mark, and the rest of the staff, the encounter with Charles left an undercurrent of unease. Little did they know, the day's events were far from over, and the truth about Charles would soon come to light in a way that would leave them all questioning their assumptions and values. As the day wore on, the Luxe Emporium settled back into its familiar rhythm of high-end shopping and hushed luxury. Amanda kept an eye on Charles from a distance, her earlier irritation festering as she noticed him occasionally engaging with the merchandise. To her, he still didn't belong. His attire, his demeanor, and even his calm confidence clashed with her rigid expectations of the store's clientele. Late in the afternoon, Charles returned to the watch display, the one that had initially caught his eye. This time he flagged down Lisa, the kinder of the two sales associates. "Excuse me," he said, his voice polite. "I'd like to take a closer look at this piece." Lisa hesitated for a moment, glancing over at Amanda, who was busy chatting with another customer, before nodding. "Of course, sir," Lisa replied, retrieving a key from her pocket and unlocking the glass case. She carefully placed the watch on a sleek velvet tray and handed it to Charles. "This is one of our most exclusive designs," she explained, her tone warm and professional. "It's part of a limited collection. Only 50 were ever made." Charles examined the watch closely, running his fingers along its smooth platinum surface. "It's exquisite," he said, his voice thoughtful. "I appreciate you taking the time to show it to me." As Lisa smiled, Amanda approached, her expression tense. "Lisa, I can handle this," she said abruptly, inserting herself into the interaction. "Sir, are you sure this is within your price range? We have more affordable options in another section." Lisa's jaw tightened in frustration, but before she could respond, Charles turned to Amanda, his expression unreadable. "Do you often ask your customers questions like that?" he asked calmly. Amanda blinked, caught off guard. "I'm just trying to ensure our customers are matched with items that suit them," she said defensively. Charles nodded slowly, setting the watch back on the tray. "Interesting approach," he murmured. Then, with an air of finality, he added, "I'll take it." The declaration sent a ripple of disbelief through the nearby staff. Amanda faltered, her confidence cracking. You'd like to purchase it?" she stammered. "Yes," Charles replied simply. "Would you mind ringing it up for me?" Amanda hesitated, but under the watchful eyes of Lisa and Mark, who had been observing from a distance, she had no choice but to comply. As she processed the sale, she couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The transaction went smoothly, with Charles paying in full, but the tension lingered. Just as Charles prepared to leave, the store's main doors swung open, and a well-dressed man entered, flanked by two assistants. His commanding presence turned heads immediately. It was Jonathan Whitaker, the CEO of the Luxe Emporium's parent company, and his sudden arrival sent a jolt of panic through the staff. Jonathan's sharp gaze scanned the room before landing on Charles. A smile broke across his face, and he approached quickly, extending a hand. "Mr. Sterling," he exclaimed warmly. "It's great to see you. I didn't realize you'd be visiting one of our locations today." Amanda froze, her heart sinking as the realization began to dawn on her. Charles shook Jonathan's hand with a calm smile. "I wanted to see the store for myself," he said. "It's always good to get a first-hand look at operations." Jonathan turned to the stunned staff, his tone bright and cheerful. "For those of you who don't know, this is Michael Sterling, the newest owner of Lux Emporium. He recently acquired the brand as part of his growing portfolio." The revelation hit Amanda like a tidal wave. Her assumptions about Charles, her dismissive attitude, and her overt bias all came crashing down in a single moment. She felt the weight of everyone's eyes on her. Lisa's sympathetic but disappointed gaze, Mark's look of quiet disapproval, and even Evelyn's raised brow from across the room. Charles, however, remained composed. "Thank you, Jonathan," he said, turning to address the staff. "I've been here all afternoon, observing how things run. I appreciate the efforts of those who've upheld the brand's values and treated me with respect." His words hung in the air, unspoken but unmistakable. Not everyone had passed the test. Jonathan, sensing the tension, quickly interjected. "I trust everything went smoothly, Mr. Sterling?" Charles paused, his eyes briefly meeting Amanda's. "Let's just say there's room for improvement," he said diplomatically. "I'll follow up with you later, Jonathan. For now, I'd like to thank the staff for their time." With that, Charles walked out of the store, leaving behind an atmosphere thick with unspoken lessons. Amanda stood rooted to the spot, her face flushed with shame as the weight of her actions settled on her shoulders. It was a moment she would never forget. A turning point that would force her to confront her own prejudices and redefine her approach to both her job and the people she served. The Lux Emporium was uncharacteristically quiet after Charles Sterling left, the usual hum of activity replaced by a tense stillness. Staff members exchanged uncertain glances, the weight of what had just transpired settling over the store like a heavy fog. Amanda, still rooted to her spot behind the counter, felt a knot of shame tightening in her chest. Her earlier confidence and authority now felt hollow, overshadowed by the glaring reality of her actions. Mark, the assistant manager, broke the silence. "Everyone, let's get back to work," he instructed calmly, though his tone carried an edge of disappointment. "We'll discuss today's events in detail after the store closes." Amanda avoided his gaze, retreating to the back office under the guise of needing to review inventory. Alone in the quiet space, she replayed the day's events in her mind, her usual defenses crumbling. She had always prided herself on her ability to read customers, but today, her assumptions had not only embarrassed her but threatened the store's reputation. The realization stung more than she cared to admit. As the store closed that evening, Mark called a staff meeting in the sleek, glass-walled conference room. The mood was somber, with most employees avoiding eye contact. Amanda sat at the far end of the table, her usually sharp posture replaced by a slumped figure. Lisa sat beside her, offering quiet support with a reassuring pat on the arm. Mark began the meeting by addressing the day's events head-on. "First, I want to acknowledge the effort many of you put into maintaining our standards of service today," he said, his tone neutral but firm. "However, we need to talk about what happened with Mr. Sterling." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Today was a lesson in humility for all of us. Assumptions were made based on appearances, and it cost us. Lux Emporium prides itself on treating every guest with the same respect and courtesy, regardless of their background or attire. Clearly, we fell short of that standard. The staff listened in silence, some nodding in agreement while others, like Amanda, sat quietly, absorbing his words. Mark turned his attention to Amanda, his voice softening slightly. "Amanda, I know you were trying to protect the store's image, but your approach undermined the values we stand for. This isn't just about today. It's about the kind of environment we create for everyone who walks through those doors." Amanda swallowed hard, her cheeks flushing. I made a mistake," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I judged him based on his appearance, and I shouldn't have. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. For embarrassing the store and for disrespecting Mr. Sterling." Mark nodded, his expression a mix of understanding and sternness. "Acknowledging the mistake is the first step," Amanda. What matters now is how we move forward. In the days that followed, the Lux Emporium underwent a subtle but significant transformation. Charles Sterling's unannounced visit became a catalyst for introspection and change. Mark collaborated with the corporate office to implement a new training program focused on unconscious bias and inclusive service practices. The sessions were mandatory for all employees, from entry-level associates to upper management. The program included role-playing exercises designed to challenge the staff's preconceptions and teach them to approach every customer with an open mind. Amanda, though initially resistant, found herself deeply engaged. Each scenario forced her to confront her biases, and she began to see how her actions could alienate the very people the store sought to welcome. Lisa, whose empathetic approach during the incident had caught Charles's attention, became a quiet leader among the staff. She encouraged her colleagues to embrace the training and shared her own experiences of learning to see people for who they were, not what they appeared to be. Meanwhile, Charles maintained a low profile but kept in close contact with Mark. He reviewed the store's progress regularly, offering feedback and support. "This isn't about punishment," he told Mark during one of their conversations. "It's about growth. Mistakes are inevitable, but how we respond to them defines us." Amanda's journey of redemption was gradual but genuine. She began approaching her work with a newfound humility, taking extra care to engage every customer with respect and curiosity. Her interactions became less about appearances and more about connection, a change that didn't go unnoticed by her peers or the store's clientele. One afternoon, Charles returned to the store, this time dressed in a tailored suit that matched the elegance of the setting. Amanda, recognizing him immediately, felt a wave of nervousness but approached him nonetheless. "Mr. Sterling," she said, her voice steady but tinged with sincerity, "I'd like to apologize again for how I treated you. I've learned a lot since that day, and I hope to do better." Charles smiled, his expression warm. "Thank you, Amanda. Growth is never easy, but it's always worth it. I'm glad to see you've taken this as an opportunity to improve." By the end of the month, the Lux Emporium was not just a luxury store. It was a symbol of transformation and integrity. The staff, once divided by assumptions and insecurities, now worked together with a shared purpose. And while the memory of Charles Sterling's visit remained a cautionary tale, it also became a testament to the power of second chances and the lessons that can come from even the smallest interactions. The story of Charles Sterling's visit to Lux Emporium serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of humility, respect, and the dangers of judging others based on appearances. What began as a routine day for the store's staff turned into a transformative experience, not just for Amanda but for everyone who witnessed the events unfold. At its core, this story reveals how unconscious biases can seep into our actions, often without us realizing. Amanda's initial judgment of Charles, rooted in his unassuming attire, reflected a broader societal tendency to equate outward appearances with worth or capability. Yet, Charles's calm demeanor and ultimate revelation as the store's owner served as a poignant reminder that true value lies beneath the surface. For Amanda, this experience was a turning point, forcing her to confront her own prejudices and grow into a more empathetic and professional individual. Her transformation, while difficult, highlighted the power of self-awareness and the willingness to change. The Lux Emporium, as a whole, also emerged stronger, adopting practices that emphasized inclusivity and respect for all customers. The moral of the story is simple yet profound. Treat everyone with dignity and kindness, no matter how they look or what you assume about them. In doing so, you not only uphold your values but also create a world where people feel seen and respected. This tale also emphasizes the importance of leadership that fosters growth rather than punishment, as demonstrated by Charles's measured approach to the situation. The broader implication is clear: our judgments and actions ripple outward, influencing not just individual relationships but entire communities. In a world where assumptions often lead to division, this story reminds us of the importance of compassion and understanding. What would you do if someone walked into your workplace, dressed in a way that didn't fit your expectations? Would you judge them based on their appearance? Or would you treat them with the same respect you'd give anyone else? This story of Charles Sterling challenges us all to think about the assumptions we make every day and the potential impact they have on others. It's a lesson that goes beyond luxury stores and customer service. It's about how we view and treat the people around us, whether they're friends, strangers, or colleagues. Have you ever misjudged someone only to later realize how wrong you were? Share your stories in the comments. We'd love to hear how moments like these have changed your perspective. As you reflect on this story, remember, true kindness isn't selective, and respect should never be conditional. Stay tuned for our next video, where we'll explore another tale of transformation, redemption, and the unexpected lessons life has to offer. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if it resonated with you, because the smallest actions can lead to the biggest changes. What will your next act of kindness be?